Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good, thank you. So my name is Peter Knight, and I'm a data scientist with GE Aerospace, and this is my colleague.
I'm Sam. I'm a data scientist for GE Aerospace as well.
We're just going to share a little bit of our experience with using Dataiku Govern at GE Aerospace. So just to give you a bit of an outline, what we're going to talk about is just to tell you a little bit about our company, what GE Aerospace does, which Sam's going to do. Then we're going to talk a bit about what project governance is and why it's so important, and then a bit of the journey as to why we chose Dataiku Govern, and really try and spend most of the time doing a bit of a demo of how it looks the way we've configured it. So I'll hand over to Sam now to introduce a bit about GE Aerospace.
Thank you. Yep, so GE Aerospace, we're a leading provider of jet engine systems and services for both that powers both the commercial and defense aviation. At any moment, there's a jet engine taking off every 2 seconds, and that means that right now there's about 2.2 thousand jets in the air, that each carrying between about 50 to 500 passengers. And that means that right now there's around 300,000 people depending on us to keep them safe in the air. We're also a global company. We have over 50,000 employees, but just in data science, we have 250 people across 7 different companies and 3 organizations, each of them developing analytics that combine both domain knowledge and classical AI and data science to ensure the quality and safety of our products. Give you a bit of a flavor of the type of analytics that we create. We combine various different sources of data and to produce our machine learning models, and they can be from digital twins to multiple different types of modeling. We use these analytics that are then used on the other end to help the entire life cycle of an engine, and that's from inventory management, on-wing diagnostics, and repair and overhaul.
Great, thanks, Sam. So now I'm just going to talk a bit about why project governance is important and a bit about our process that we've been developing over many years. So I could probably talk for a long time about this. We've got loads of bullets we could add. And really, we're trying to get better every day at what we do in the analytics space. We want to make sure those products that are supporting those engines that are flying the whole time are robust, that they're fit for purpose, that they're meeting our needs or even exceeding them, and that they're delivered as efficiently and timely as possible. So we want to encourage reuse, that people aren't inventing the same thing in different parts of the world, and that everything is integrated with monitoring so that when analytics are deployed, that we know, are they doing the job they're designed to do. And so to do that means all our results need to create that impact, bring value. They need to be consistent, they need to be repeatable, so we know if we did the same job by a different person later, or we could go to a regulator and say, how did we do that? We can justify what we've done. And obviously it needs to be scalable to a huge fleet and be well validated. So you could go on a lot about that, do chat with us later. But to meet that, we've developed a process. We've actually had an analytics development process for well over a decade in GE, and we're continually improving it. And our kind of most recent iteration looks a bit like this, and we've actually branded it as kind of data to value, a bit like that previous talk. Everyone has a different definition of what value is, but we're always trying to bring some kind of value. And so we need to get that team together. We need to get everything going through some kind of funnel of what's the high priority thing, because there's always thousands of ideas for analytics, but which is the one we should invest time and money in. And let's have a review that is to define, we have a good value statement before we do any work, we've got the right team of expertise on it, and then we tend to define these kind of 2 paths. Sometimes we're doing what we call our factory process, so it's like something we've done before, we're following some kind of standard work, and we go through these steps of exploring the data in the problem space, developing something, validating it, and then delivering it. And then really, if we've got this more startup thing where things are new, you might be doing new agentic stuff we've never done before, or it might be a new data set we've never done before. So you need to be a bit more iterative, but still all those steps are important. And then once it's delivered, really important that we're continually monitoring those analytics, and if needed, refining them. And we might go, oh, we need to go back and put it in the funnel as another improvement project, or it might be that it's time to retire it because that need has gone away or something else has improved it. And along that whole process, we want to be documenting what's happened. So we've got this audit trail for regulators as to what that analytic was doing, so that if we have an incident in the field, we can say this analytic spotted it because of this, or we missed it, but it has been through this careful, rigorous process. So in order to make that process work, we've gone through a journey to choose Dataiku Govern to kind of help us manage that process. So we used to have a whole bunch of tools that were really mostly GE developed. So we'd have a catalog of analytics that were running. So people had to go in and fill out, I've done this analytic, it's running in this system, this is what it's doing. But separately, before that, they'd use a GE-developed project management tool that would say, this is what I'm going to do, and these are the milestones I'm going through. And then we would have reviews for those with the thing, and we had a whole separate tool for managing those meetings, saying who's going to be there, getting all the minutes and actions from it. And so a given project was going through all of those, and then you'd have to have metrics on top of that to say what's happening. And in fact, when we did a workout on this, we mapped out about 20 different tools we were actually using to go through all these steps. And so what we're trying to do is bring that together through Dataiku Govern to consolidate those tools, have less tools, which in turn means less fields people have to fill out because you don't have to do the same information in different places. And also have more automation. So before things were fairly static, whereas now we can say, if it's this kind of analytic, apply this rule. If it's this other one, don't. Streamline it for some that are maybe a proof of concept, have more rigor where it's really a flight safety type of analytic. And so we went through a whole journey over the last 3 or 4 years to choose the platform to do that. We went through a 1-year early adopter program with Dataiku, where they gave us kind of access to the advanced govern, lots of expertise from them to help train us up and configure it for our needs. We really liked the ability that this tool could have Python code that ran when anyone does something, so that we could, as data scientists, configure this tool to meet our needs without having to go back to our IT teams or go back to Dataiku themselves to say, oh, we need it to do this, oh, we need this new field. We were in control of that whole process, really. And the whole way through that, we've been also trying to use this for both analytics developed within Dataiku and deployed in Dataiku, which we do quite a lot, but also we make use of other tools for development and other tools for deployment. So there's a whole mess, as I'm sure you're aware, in real industry of legacy stuff and different tools people like. And we wanted to be able to handle all of that in a single platform. So now we're going to try and focus in a bit on the way we've configured advanced govern. So you've seen in a few talks this morning that Dataiku has this governance platform. It comes with some standard workflows, but with advanced govern, you can customize those for yourself. And so we're going to kind of talk a little bit through that. Dataiku Govern has this top-level idea, which is a business initiative that you may have heard this morning, which is trying to group projects together and say, all of these are trying to meet this need. And then under that, there's a concept of a project, and so we make use of that, but we have made a customized version of that with all the fields that we need. And then some of the ways we've done it is to kind of use these blueprints that they have as bit like a class in programming, so that we can say, right, instead of just having a field for a person, maybe the developer on the project, another field for a reviewer, something like that, we're trying to have more of a team structure where it is flexible. So every project might be different, and we can define those rules without changing the structure. So we can say project A needs these 5 required team members, project B only maybe need 3, and you can optionally add any ones you want and have that flexibility. And similarly with the sign-off process, so Govern has a way of signing off where you can say this is ready to be signed off, and it'll email 1 or more reviewers to review that. Whereas we've found it more constructive to actually have reviews where people get together on a Teams call or in a forum to present their project and check everyone's on the same page. But we wanted to do that in the same way, but still have the flexibility so that that review could happen at multiple stages in the project, might have different people at different reviews, but still use the same structure. And so each of these we're going to try and demonstrate in a minute in the tool. And then each of those reviews might have actions so that people can say, okay, well, you did most things you did, but you need to go away and do this, this, and this before it gets approved. And we've also needed to introduce a level below a project, which we've called a deliverable, which is for like each version of your project as it goes through, which is could be something like a bundle if you're developing in Dataiku, but it could be something else because we're trying to use the same structure for different project types. And then we go right down to that lowest level to track individual elements you might be delivering. And then the good thing is by having those reviews and action items generic, we can attach them at a project level or a deliverable level or somewhere else. And then it's within that deliverable level that we have the workflow that maps our process. So not the process Dataiku have done or something else. We've said, right, our process is going through that define, explore, develop things. And each of those could have reviews and actions associated with them. And depending on the project type, you might say, well, this step is not required, you don't need a review there, or some of those steps might be done together. You might have one review that covers 4 of the steps at once, so that we can have that flexibility while still having that governance to know that everyone's done everything they need to do. So now I'm going to try, which is always a bit dangerous, to do a bit of a demo. So we've got a kind of recording of what this looks for real that I'll try and talk you through. So this is the kind of front page generic of Govern, and those 6 blocks are the built-in views in Govern. But we've also developed our own views. So this is our project view. We've chosen the fields that are visible at this level. And we've got 2 demo projects that we're going to talk through. So I'm going to talk through one that was developed not in Dataiku and show you that. And Sam's going to talk one with a different business initiative that was developed in Dataiku. So you'll see some of the differences between those. So if we go into my project here, this is like that project level. And again, every field in here we've configured for our needs. We've been able to put in help documentation in there to guide people that can be collapsed away and hyperlinks off to more information. And this kind of standard work is what defines this analytic type. And so we have loads of rules that change based on what you've selected there as to in your governance journey. And then you've got these deliverables. So this one's got a version 1 that's up and running. It's being monitored. And then we've got the version 1.1 that's being worked at the moment. And so we can see those different versions and what state they're in. And then this was the bit I was talking about having teams. So here we've got a table of all the team members, some of which are required, some aren't. And then we've got select the different people who might fulfill that role on this project. And then we can have loads of other fields that might be to do with documentation, with IP, with because we deal with engines, the exact engine it applies to. And then, of course, specific questions we need about artificial intelligence, compliance with the EASA regulations, which kind of intelligence it's supplying. So all of that we can customize, and if we need to add things over time, it's fairly easy. And then we can just go in as an example here. I've got a review at that define phase, and every review can then look similar with somebody who's presenting, upload their presentation here, so we've got it documented. And we can have rules that say if you haven't got those fields filled out, you can't schedule the review and hold it. And then somebody ultimately signs it off, and we say which reviewers were present to hold that. And then if needed, action items be given, and you can say it has to be approved by somebody or it doesn't, and when it's due by. So that gives you a little flavor of what it really looks like inside Govern. Last thing I was going to show in my project is because mine is running in a third-party system, I can connect that deliverable. So if we look at the version 1 deliverable that's up and running, it has actual alerts that are being run in a system, and this is running in a GE proprietary system, but we can connect through the API those alerts to there, and so it goes and checks that, is it running? It goes and gets the metrics from it, how many alerts per month are being triggered, are they leading to value? And we can drill into details of those charts, and we can also record, well, when this analytic was developed, what was the estimate as to how many alerts were going to be generated, and is it meeting that? And we can put up thresholds and rules and saying, okay, it's not meeting that, you need to go and look at it or review it or improve it. So that's a little flavor of my project. I'll hand over to Sam now to talk about his different project.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the project that's designed in Dataiku. It's called the Perfect Future Predictions Project. This one is going through what we call the startup route that you saw before. It goes against a different initiative, and it does have its own deliverable. But the project itself needs to be defined, so it goes through the define review on the top left. And that review we then go to the in-progress review. So that will happen quite regularly. Because it's an actual Dataiku project, it's got these bundles at the bottom, so it's managed and pushed to production through Dataiku Govern. And at the top, you can see there's a link to the actual project that's under the hood. And the next one. So this is an idea of our Microsoft Teams style reviews. We didn't want to have any required fields because it stops you from saving things. But at the bottom, this has like an error text box that says you need to go and update the forum type. So we want to set this to team and then click save. And then that runs a Python script in the background that generates this Teams link. That connects you straight to Microsoft Teams that then hands off to it with all the required people on there and a link to the Dataiku project or the Govern project so people can easily get back. And because it's in Teams, it's all done through the scheduler, so you're not causing clashes or problems with people that you're trying to get reviews with. Yeah.
Great, and then so finally I was going to show in my project, instead of having those team reviews, we make use of a forum. So it has a regular time every Wednesday where the experts get together. And so instead we've had to develop a web app that is developed in Dataiku and is presented just as a tab within Govern, so people don't have to leave that one environment. And they can go and check in here on a particular date what reviews are scheduled for that day. Is there enough time to put my review in? And they can go and check that theirs is scheduled for that forum. And then once the review's happened, we've even made web apps that can pull through that API, get the information about reviews that have happened so that people can kind of see a minutes of what's happened in that review, as it's sometimes easier to see in a more condensed form than clicking through 3 or 4 screens in Govern. And so we also can make use of this to automatically email out to people and say you've got some actions assigned or overdue, or tell them that these reviews have happened. And so maybe people haven't been able to make the meeting, but they can go and see what's happened and comment back on it. So I'll hand over to Sam now to just talk about some of the kind of real projects as well as some of the metrics that we're developing on that.
Yep. Yeah, so obviously we couldn't show you what the real projects we have in Govern because that would probably be against our policies. But this is to give an idea of the actual size of what we have in Govern. Currently is about 210 active users, and we pulled this metric about a month ago, and there's already up to about 350 active users, so it's growing exponentially. And that means that we're holding around 60 reviews on average a month, and again, that's going up. And if you include all the artifacts altogether, we're getting over 18,000 artifacts all being generated over time. And we're also able to use the Python on the back end to automate some emails to users. So it lets people know if they've got actions that they've not done, any reviews that are coming up. So we have a schedule that people have to do reviews regularly. And if they're not meeting those schedules, then we email them to let them know. And we also put a summary together of the whole team of people in Govern and send that to people leaders. So they're able to keep on top of what their team's doing and get highlights that say, this person hasn't met their reviews, so please go talk to them. And these are, with the data that Dataiku Govern generates, we're also able to create this dashboard. This is just a page of the dashboard where we have business initiatives, and then each thing goes into a higher level initiative. And it just lets us see over time, are we getting better or worse towards our metrics? And back to Pete.
Great, thanks, Sam. So just to summarize up and conclude, so hopefully we've given you a little flavor of what GE Aerospace is all about and why analytics are important in that space and why having project governance is so important. And then kind of give you a flavor of our process and why we've chosen Dataiku Govern to kind of manage that. And then a bit of a flavor of how you can customize Govern through their advanced Govern system to your specific business needs, with great flexibility in terms of using the API, connecting to third-party systems, and adding on extra things that you might need, like emailing or dashboards or web apps. But of course, journey's never done. We've been kind of rolling this out for about a year now. For real, the number of users are going up. But we still need to get better adoption, get everyone up to speed with it. We also need to do better integration with some of those third-party runtimes to try and make sure that things can't be pushed to production, even if they're in Databricks or AWS or something else, unless they've been through our centralized governance system. So that's really our kind of focus over the next few months and years, and make sure it's meeting all of those regulatory bodies that are coming out, EU AI Act, EASA Act, and making sure we can handle newer analytics like the agentic AI and LLMs and things like that are coming out. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you found that useful, and we'll be around afterwards if you want to have any further questions. So thank you very much.